Welcome to Creative Spirit Gathering, our Monday morning chance to get together for spiritual inspiration and creative expression in our art journals. Welcome again to Creative Spirit Gathering. The theme today is the idea of turning trash into treasure. And so this particular journal piece, you'll see I have some mixed media things thrown on here, including leaves. This is amazing. These are actual leaves that I found outside last year. So the fact that they're still holding up is pretty amazing. They haven't all fallen apart on me. So yay, Mod Podge. This one has feathers. It has bits of scrap paper in here, some fabric, old grid paper, and then lots and lots of layers of paint. So I'll be showing you some tips and ideas for how to make your own mixed media collage using found materials. Now, the idea behind this is not only does it create kind of a fun visual effect, but when we're layering like this, each layer gives us the opportunity to reflect on whatever it is that we're processing for that day. Some days, again, we might be processing great joys in our life and something new and exciting is happening. And we just need a place to rest for a little while and simply be present to it all. I know this past week I've been watching a lot of online tutorial type videos, and I'm just like absorbing all of this new information. I'm getting all of these exciting ideas for things while I'm watching them. And I've personally failed to do the processing part. So I'm like watching it and taking it all in. And then at night, as I'm trying to fall asleep, my brain is processing, ooh, I could do this. We could do a new class. We could do this. And I can't fall asleep because I haven't taken the time during the day to simply just be present with something new that's coming up in my life or something old that's still weighing on my heart. And when we take it to our journals, we give ourselves the opportunity to simply be present, to allow our thoughts to come to the surface, to be raised up, and to then listen in for that voice within as well, that voice of divine wisdom that can help to guide us in making decisions. Have you ever had that experience where you don't process something during the day and it just haunts you at night? I'm seeing some nods in the Zoom room. Yeah. So our journals can be a place even for the good things, right? I so often talk about like life can be messy and we process the mess, but sometimes we just need to process gratitude on the page. Sometimes the page is a place for us to process change and transformation in all of its forms. And then of course there's the trash, the things that no longer serve us, the things that came into our life at some point. Maybe it was a belief, an idea about something. Maybe it was a story that somebody told you that you took on and believed that you weren't capable of something based on what somebody else said. Maybe somebody told you sometime in your life that creativity or the arts were frivolous. I'm going to go back and find all those people, reprogram them. And as much as I can't go back and reprogram them, what I can do is help to create space for you to transform those thoughts, for you to release somebody else's old belief system. And so whether they're ideas or physical, tangible things that we have in our homes, I know I have personally been purging things. Show of hands, anybody else, right? Making donations to Goodwill. I'm seeing people with 2 hands, 1 hand up. Yeah, it's like something in the air right now, right? As we're moving through this period of change globally, I think the first step was just kind of shock and anger and grief. And now we're all like, well, heck, I got all this stuff lying around that doesn't serve me anymore. It's time to release things. It's time to let things go. And so that's where this theme of trash to treasure came to mind. I want to share with you real quick my supplies for today. You see my desk here. I've got all these old things, and you could easily look at this and go, hey, Jen, why are you bringing your trash can to the table today for art? But the idea is that we literally can use anything that maybe we would normally get rid of and use it in our art journals. Part of that is because I love to recycle. I love the idea of reusing and repurposing things instead of just throwing them out. And secondly, it gives us that reminder, right, that we can repurpose things. Because when we take something like an old ribbon that we got on a gift package, or a fortune from a Chinese cookie, a tea bag, here's an old horoscope. This was like from a little pamphlet that I received in the mail. This is a napkin that somebody gave me, and I just thought it was so pretty. I couldn't throw it away, which is so silly. So it didn't actually make it in the trash, but I never used the napkin, and I just saved it to use in my art journal. Like old envelopes, tin foil. This is from an orange bag. And then, of course, my new pumpkin waffles here. Saving boxes. And all of these things can be used then into our journals as different layers. We can build them up with layers and adding those textures into our journal page as we're reflecting on the things in our lives as well that we're ready to release or transform into something new. Now, some ways that we can think about ideas as being transformed from trash to treasure are those old beliefs. Let's take that idea of somebody said that the arts are frivolous. Now imagine you have been holding this idea in your heart or in your mind somewhere since childhood. And right now we have the opportunity to take this idea and replace it with whatever is valid for you. And we can look at that and say, you know, that idea doesn't serve me anymore. As a creative being, that idea doesn't serve me anymore. And so what can I take from this and transform it into something else? And so I can just transform even that sentence, the arts are frivolous, I can transform it into the arts are magnificent, the arts are life-giving, the arts are healing. And by transforming it, even just a little bit, I am now empowering myself with this new idea. So think about what are those beliefs or those ideas, or when you look out at the world today, you know, that thing that's tugging on your heart, and maybe there's something that says, you know, I can't do anything about that. What if you take that can't, that trash thought, and transform it into something empowering? I can do something about that. I can do one little thing today about that. And what would that be? And let these ideas simply unfold for you as you're moving through your journal process today. What idea, what trash are you willing to release? And then what can you transform that into? What can you transform it into? So in my journal, as I shared here, I have all of these things that I've been collecting. Now, as an art journaler, I have a basket that contains a whole bunch of different supplies that I tend to use frequently for my journaling so that they're right on hand. It has crayons, markers, colored pencils, watercolor paints, glitter, of course, and Mod Podge, handy dandy Mod Podge. And I also keep in there 1 gallon-sized bag of materials like this, things that are, you know, could be considered trash, but as I come across them, I save them into that envelope so that I can use them in my journal. I purposely keep it to one thing because it would be so easy to end up overfilling that entire bag or my basket, you know, just all filled with these materials. So I invite you to start considering, you know, what could you keep on hand and would be easy to just grab and have these things to recycle. Now, things like the Cardboard you could use to cut out shapes, and you could even use like the negative of that. And you could just use it in as mixed media piece, or you could use it as a template to then paint or draw into that space. So some ideas for that. If you don't have materials on hand to do mixed media today, you could also think about using things to stamp into paint, you know, old bottle caps or milk jug tops. Think about what textures and things you could stick in paint and reuse and repurpose. And I just want to demonstrate really quickly here. This is Mod Podge for anyone that's not familiar with it. It's a really thick liquid glue. And this is really good for doing things like mixed media because it will hold its shape, hold the place, and it dries fairly quickly. So I'm just going to patch some down here and then stick that in where I want it. It will dry clear, so you can see there's some white showing right now, but it will dry clear. And you can also paint over it and add layers on top of it as well. So for example, like some of these things I could use a glue stick, but that orange bag, which I just think is such a fun texture, I wouldn't be able to glue that down with a glue stick very easily, but with the Mod Podge, I'd be able to glue that down and get that held into place. And again, instead of gluing the object, I'm just going to add some glue to the paper. A lot easier than trying to add glue through all those shapes, that netting. So you can just add some onto the paper and press it down and let it dry a little bit before I go on to my next layer. If you're using Mod Podge, I recommend having an old paintbrush, one that you don't plan to use for your paints again, because that glue can get tricky to get out afterwards. Another tip for using Mod Podge, always make sure to keep a cap on it when you're not using it. If I'm doing a larger mixed media project like this, a lot of times with my Mod Podge, I'll pour a little bit into an old yogurt container or something, so I'm not leaving the jar exposed so it doesn't dry out as quickly. Now what I'm going to do is let those couple pieces dry. I'm going to come back into mine with paint while we're doing our journal piece today, and then I'll start adding some of those other materials in there as I feel called to do so. So what we're doing is using found objects around the house, things that you could maybe consider that I didn't show in my pile would be old greeting cards, if you have those lying around, or postcards, letters, or junk mail. I use junk mail a lot. It's, you know, there's always plenty of it coming in, and you can use it, repurpose, turn it into something new. Other things could be things like packaging, wraps, crinkly papers that you can find in things, tissue paper from old, from gifts that you've received. Or I recently got a package that was filled with all of these little crinkly brown paper bits that would be really fun to use in there. So think outside the box. Think about things that you have on hand. I know you may not have purposely been stashing things like I have, but we all have some things around the house that you can use. And if you need to talk to anybody about getting rid of paper clutter, aside from using it in your journal, Andrea's your girl. If you're here in the Zoom room, make sure to ask her about that later. So we're going to take these ideas and move now into our time of meditation to simply, again, give space for the ideas to rest. Give space for these thoughts to be processed and to be brought, again, from our logic mind that is always thinking, down into our heart space, So as we're moving through this, when we ask ourselves, you know, what is that trash that I want to turn into treasure? We're not just sitting there thinking about, you know, how do I make this happen, but just dropping into that heart space and listening from that place of divine wisdom that we all have within us. So I invite you to take a moment and just become comfortable where you are. If you're laying down, just let your body rest. Release any tension. If you're sitting in a chair, you might want to intentionally put your feet on the ground and feel that groundedness. Feel that groundedness, so your feet are rooted. And take a couple breaths here, bringing awareness to the inhale, to the exhale. You might want to bring an intention or a phrase to the breath. Breathing in, I inhale peace. Breathing out, I exhale what no longer serves me. Choose whatever words come to your heart as we let the breath take us deeper within, as we experience a moment of silence together. And on the next in-breath, we breathe in gratitude. We breathe in gratitude for this opportunity to come together in community, whether we are connected right now in the Zoom room or we are connected online in some way. We know that we are not alone. We know that our intentions are held in this community circle. And it is with gratitude that we open our eyes and prepare to move now into our journal process, exploring and expressing the transformation of trash to treasure in our lives. So enjoy the process, and I will see you all again very soon.